So let's talk about Cyrano de Bergerac. But I'm willing to bet this isn't the story you know. We're going to get into the full, tragic story of the man behind that incredible panache.
You see this line? It comes from the prequel to the famous play. And honestly, it's the key to everything. It tells us that for Cyrano, panache, his wit, it wasn't some flashy gift. It was armor.
So, here's how we're going to break it down. First, we'll look at how that armor was forged. Then, how he used it in this tragic love story. After that, we dive into the silent years, the part of the story most people miss. And finally, we'll talk about the legacy he left behind. All right, first up, the Forge of Panache. We're going to see how 3 really devastating wounds from his youth basically hammered his bravado into a shield, an armor, to protect a heart that was just, well, deeply hurt. Okay, so it really boils down to 3 huge moments that completely shaped him. You've got this profound artistic loss, a shocking betrayal from his own family, and just a soul-crushing public rejection. First, imagine this. His manuscripts. His father, Abel, is a practical guy. He needs to light a fire, so he just grabs his son's entire life's work, all his poems, his writings, and uses it for kindling. Just like that, his art turns to ash. Then things get even worse with his brother, Pierre. Pierre gets hurt in an accident, right? A faulty ladder. And in his delirium, he accuses Cyrano of doing it on purpose, out of jealousy. And the worst part? His family believes the lie. Cyrano is banished, completely unjustly. And finally, the nail in the coffin, the humiliation. He's encouraged by this influential woman, Marion Delorme, to confess his love. So he does, beneath her balcony. Only for her and another poet, Paul Scarron, to just mock him. They laugh at his sincerity. He's forced to retreat with what the book calls the honor of a silence and a clean regret. Just devastating.
So you see what's happening, right? All of this, it forges that panache. It becomes his defense mechanism. He becomes a man who is absolutely terrified of ever being rejected for his true self ever again. And that brings us to the play everyone knows. This fear, this armor, it explains exactly why he makes that famous pact. He finds a way to love without any of the risk, using a handsome proxy as his, well, as his shield.
And this is the deal they strike. It's the perfect alibi, really. You've got Christian, the beauty, the face, the lips, and Cyrano, who provides the soul, the words, the eloquence. Christian becomes the handsome vessel for Cyrano's brilliant, passionate mind.
And through Christian, Cyrano gets to pour his heart out to Roxane, the woman he's desperately in love with. He can say everything he feels without ever having to face the possibility that she might reject him, because of how he looks.
But of course, this can't last. The whole thing ends in tragedy at the Siege of Arras. Christian is killed, and just like that, the alibi is shattered. Cyrano's armor and his heart are completely broken.
Okay, so what happens next? This is the part of the story that Rostand's play just completely skips over. We're talking about a 15-year silence, a time of profound darkness for Cyrano, but also, eventually, reinvention.
For 6 straight months, he just disappears. He falls into this deep despair, drinking to try and numb the pain of losing Christian, and of course, the crushing weight of the secret he's keeping.
What pulls him back from the brink? It's a young man named Leon, who he starts mentoring. And together, they find a way to channel all of Cyrano's pain and fury into something new. They start this radical gazette, The Naked King, and it basically weaponizes Cyrano's panache, turning it from a personal defense into a tool for social critique. But as you can imagine, this new kind of war, a war fought with words, is going to have some devastating, real-world consequences. It transforms Cyrano's personal struggle into something much bigger, a radical and ultimately a fatal legacy.
The Gazette becomes really successful, but it comes at a horrific price. One of their young followers, a boy named Henri, is murdered by guards just for posting one of their tracts. And they nail the paper to his chest. Cyrano's words are literally turned into an instrument of martyrdom.
This event completely radicalizes Cyrano. It puts him on a path that leads directly to his own assassination. Years later, as he's dying from an ambush, he pays one last visit to Roxane. It's there, on his last day, that he accidentally recites Christian's last letter from memory. The secret is finally out. And then he dies, fighting one last imaginary battle, his panache holding strong right to the very end.
And in that moment, Roxane realizes everything. For 15 long years, inside that convent, the man she thought was just her clever, witty friend, he was actually the soul she had fallen in love with all those years ago. The words were his. They were always his.
So Cyrano the man is gone. His secret love, his private pain, it all dies with him. But his protege, Léon, makes a crucial decision. He knows that the name Cyrano, the radical voice, the spirit of defiance, that can't be allowed to die.
And so Léon keeps publishing The Naked King, and on every single issue, he signs one name, Cyrano de Bergerac. He takes a personal tragedy and transforms it into this enduring public legacy of rebellion.
Which really leaves us with a final question, doesn't it? What is it that outlives the hero? Is it the armor he wore to protect himself, or is it the words he forged in that fire? For Cyrano, he built that armor of wit to hide his heart, but in the end, it was the words that became his true, immortal legacy.